To order. For roll call, let's see. Are we missing someone? Trice, Bizzle, Lipscomb, Powers, Teed, Avery, Merritt, Coates. Okay, there's just an empty table, or are we missing someone?
No, he's over here.
Good evening. That's just an empty table.
Okay, thank you, just making sure. Didn't want to miss anybody. Okay, let me get back here. Let's see, do we have, so everyone's present for roll call. Do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
We do not.
Okay. If there are none, we'll move on to item number 3, approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes needed? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Approved. Board Member Powers, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Board Member Price. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Okay. Are we good to go ahead and introduce the next item? Okay. The next item on the agenda is 4A, Public Hearing 2024-RZ O'Neill Overlook Rezoning, and we'll now hear from staff. Yes, Board Member Lipscomb.
I have a conflict of interest in this and the next item, so I don't know if I need to leave the room or just recuse myself, but I'd like to speak.
So we have a board member recusing himself from the next 2 items. Should he leave the room or?
Yes, please.
Yes, please leave the room. We'll come and get you.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Can hear from staff.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Merritt, members of the Planning Board. Introduce myself for the record. My name is Jeff Keynes. I'm a land use planner with the town of Clayton. I'm here to present the staff report for the O'Neill Overlook rezoning application, as you mentioned, 2020-74RZ. I believe the applicant or applicant's representative is here tonight as well, and members of the public are here that may want to speak on this matter. The request tonight is to have a recommendation for a proposal of land from RZ to R8. Its general size is about 15.5 acres in size. Its current use, there is a single-family home on one of the parcels, and the rest of it is vacant, open land, as you can see from the photograph on the television screens. So it's located off O'Neill Street, just north of the Rollingwood subdivision, which has, most of you may be familiar with the Oakdale Street, just north of that specific subdivision. So its current zoning is RE of the 2 parcels, and well, it's hard to point out here, but there we go, lag of time. So the 2 parcels is this one, and the one just where it's pointing to. I don't want to mess with the pointer too much due to the time lag. Zoned RE, the applicant has requested to be zoned R8, which does match the zoning to the bottom, and is comparable to the zoning to the northeast of the site. No, I mean to the bottom means to the south along Oakdale Street. So although the consistency of the request is not consistent with the comprehensive plan of the 2040 plan, which was adopted as policy of the town. However, staff has analyzed the situation, and we do believe it meets the intent of the zoning that the applicant is requesting. As stated before, the property to the south is also low residential density, but is also zoned R8. The property to the northwest is zoned R8 special use. I wrote it down here. SUD, Special Use District. And I believe it's also is currently being developed at a high-density residential as well. So staff finds that although the R8 zoning district does not necessarily meet the low-density residential of the comprehensive plan, it does meet the criteria in order for the property to be rezoned. So in essence, staff does recommend approval of the rezone. And with that, I'll conclude the staff report and answer any questions the planning board may have.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for staff at this time? Doesn't appear to be any questions for staff at this moment. So, oh, I'm sorry. Question for staff? If it's a public comment, we could take that next or after we hear from the applicant. It's up to you. Public comment.
We will hear from the applicant, and then we can have public comment and then interaction. If there's any questions during the public comment, be happy to answer those, staff or from the applicant.
Excellent. Thank you for
Thank you.
I have a
clarifying.
question for staff.
Yeah.
How many residents per acre are allowed on the R8 versus the RE?
So the question is, how many residents are
Residences are per acre for the
per
R8
acre on RA
versus the RE?
versus RE?
Yeah, the previous zoning, the current zoning.
You know, in general terms, the RE has a number of, I'll try to make this a short answer. The RE designation has 3 different lot sizes. Lots can range from 20,000 to 40,000, depending if it has sewer, water and sewer connection. So it can be 4 units per acre to 8 units per acre under the RE, if it just using round numbers. The R8, that can also range from a high density, I want to say 10 plus, about 10 units per acre on the R8. Depends on what type of subdivision that the applicant would be proposing at a future date. And so, and it also ranges from small lots, I think top of my head would be 6,000 square feet per unit on up, 10,000 square feet. So it just depends on the type of development.
Do you know if we have sewer out there?
I believe sewer, I don't know if we have sewer currently now, but it will be available upon development for this type
We're
of
on the
development.
low end, 6,000 for R8 and 20,000 for RE. You said it depends on whether or not it has sewer, so the low end on high density.
So if it was,
6,000 square feet?
so an RE development under 20,000, it would be required to have water and sewer.
Okay,
40,000 would not be
right, and
required.
20,000 on RE, and under R8 with sewer would be 6,000?
Both of those would require sewer connections. If it was 20,000 square foot, that would require a sewer connection.
Right, but I'm talking about under R8 with sewer attachments. What's the minimum square footage per lot?
I think 6,000.
6,000, okay.
Yes, sir.
It should be sewer available because the town entered into an agreement some time ago for Sam's Branch sewer main, so it would be accessible to these lots.
Upon development, yes, that's correct.
There's property across, which is now Steeplechase. The sewer main was put in to accommodate that and future development, so sewer should be available now, if it's available across the street.
Yes, that would be correct.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? Okay, and then let's see, were we going to sanitize before? Okay, so I'll remind people. I'll try to remind people between speaking to just kind of sanitize after themselves. Okay, we'll now hear from the applicant.
Good evening. My name is Emily Bedingfield. I'm the applicant for the current request on behalf of J&B Real Estate Consultants. Thank you so much in advance for your time this evening. I want to quickly address the question about the sewer availability. We have been told that there is sewer capacity for this property, and the property, when developed, would be within 300 feet of existing water and sewer lines. So development of this property will require connection to water and sewer as a condition of receiving approval for that. So just a little clarification there. And the difference in lot sizes depends on whether it's developed as a cluster subdivision or as a conventional subdivision. A conventional subdivision is going to put your minimum lot sizes at 8,000 square feet. And then the cluster subdivision would reduce that down to 6,000 square feet. I just wanted to add a couple of notes to the information that was already presented by staff, which was very comprehensive, and we appreciate the staff report that was put forward this evening. Just a reminder that this particular request is for the rezoning of the property only, does not address the potential subdivision and actual development of the property, at which point we will be looking really closely at lot sizes and connection points and things of that nature. So the future land use map does designate the property as low-density residential, but it also has a caveat that you can get up to gross 3 units per acre in that future land use designation, so long as you are clustering. On this particular piece of property, I think it's worth noting that there's a couple different things happening on site. We have some pretty severe topography, as well as that stream that kind of creates that jagged edge to the east. And both of those things are going to create some clustering in their own right. And I believe, from a planning standpoint, that we're going to naturally see clustering on this property and not exceed that 3 units per acre, which is something that's also overseen by state requirements as part of being within that watershed protection overlay. So we're going to see some protections that maybe tie in a little bit to that low density residential designation on the future land use map, just through the natural development and already existing requirements from the state that exist on this property. We're also, I think it was mentioned that there is some property to the north that is a higher density. Steeplechase is directly to the north. Riverwood, Ashcroft, we're sitting in a little bit of a donut hole here where, again, we have to connect to water and sewer in order to develop, which almost automatically puts you into a higher density category. RE is typically reserved for lots that do not have either both or one of the two water and sewer connection. And it is adjacent to existing R8 development and very close to our downtown core. So for a lot of reasons, I would suggest that this is the proper zoning for this property and is very appropriate given the continued development of our core expanding outwards. And I am happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant at this time?
Is this property owned by the same developers at Rosemary and Cooper development, or those developments on Rosemary and Cooper Street that also are O'Neill? Is it the same developer?
So the question is the property owned by the same developers as Academy Point, which is adjacent to Cooper Elementary? The developer is a minority partner in that development. It's not the same developer per se. I would say he has a role in that other development.
would changing the zoning entail putting bridges in or a lot of landfill? How would it change the topography?
Okay, that's a great question. So the question is, does changing the zoning automatically bring about ideas of bridges or changing the topography? Not in and of itself. It could, I would say, in its current zoning RE, somebody could come in and mass grade it and, with, again, working around the environmental restraints that are already in place at the state level and from the town ordinances. We're always bound by those, no matter what the zoning is. R8 doesn't remove any of the existing environmental restrictions. All it does is it increases the density and it reduces the size of the lots that are allowed on the property. So with the existing zoning, there would be potential for bridges across that stream, as an example, or for grading or tree removal. I would suggest probably even more so, because you're looking at larger lots, potentially traversing across more property, whereas with a R8, we have more opportunity to cluster our development and preserve some of those more natural features. But that's a question, again, for the specifics of the development proposal that will come forth.
And these are great questions, and I do appreciate that. I just want to check in real quick procedurally. I can't remember with the rezoning if there's a sign-in sheet for public comment. No? Okay. And then is it best to hold that kind of stuff till the public comment portion, or? So if you don't mind, we're going to get to public comment next, and we can have you come to the podium so we can all hear you and everything, but great questions. Thank you. Anything else for us to direct to the applicant? Mr. Price.
Emily, I can't remember which side of Sam's Branch the Greenway is on. Does it touch this property, or is it across the creek?
It does not. It's actually just enough further up O'Neill that it's not a connection point. I wish it were. Yep.
Sorry, getting a heads up here. Anything else for the applicant? And they are just asking when we speak to make sure we get into the microphone as much as possible. There are people watching this remotely in the other room, so it's hard to pick up unless we're getting right in the microphone. So, okay, well, thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
So what we'll do is have her sanitize the stand, and then we can call for public comments. Okay, so we have some public comments on this matter, so feel free to approach the podium and you can just speak right into the microphone. And if you wouldn't just mind stating your name for us.
I'm Cynthia Chambers, and I live off of Oakdale. I listened to the last meeting, and I was aware that there was a section that was already zoned, or it was going to be zoned, or for quite a large cluster of houses. I think it was going to be like 30, I don't know. Anyway, the section that it was on is right here. Can somebody explain, is that still going to be a development right there with like 30 or 31 homes? This area right here.
Let's see.
What's the area you're marking?
That area. Right up there, there's one.
So just for those who aren't in the room, we're trying to identify an area that she's referencing on a map to try to see if there's development going on there.
Jeff Gaines, Town of Clayton. At this time, there has been no formal proposal for a subdivision. But we will assume that there would be a subdivision that would be located in the two parcels that you've pointed to that are under review for a rezone. But since this is only a rezone, that's only the criteria we're looking at, the next step, if the applicant moves forward with a subdivision proposal, that she would move forward and go through the normal land use entitlement process. But I would just say, I would assume that if an applicant's rezoning the property, there would be a subdivision associated with that sometime in the near future. But as it states now, the town does not have a formal application for a subdivision. And if it does, then we would send out for public notice. Then then the public surrounding the same property owners who received notice for this would receive notice for the subdivision.
Okay, did that answer the question? And did you want to come and ask anything else? You're more than welcome to. No? Okay. Let's see, should we wipe that down again, or we didn't, I don't really.
I'll keep
Okay.
waiting, not a problem.
Thank you.
No, that's all good.
No, it's fine. We're happy to accommodate. Let's see, are there any other public comments at this time? Okay, seeing none, I will turn it over to the board for their consideration. So any comments from the board? I know this is, for me, one of those that come up just when I'm out and about in town. And of course, you hear people say, you know, these high density developments or higher density developments put a strain on the streets and the schools and all that sort of thing. And I'm sympathetic to all those concerns for sure. But I know for me, when I looked at this location, to me, it's fitting that we would increase the number of homes that could go in there. It's kind of what Ms. Bedingfield said, the donut effect. You have similar development all around that area. And so for me, it made sense logically to fill that in with a designation higher than, or more dense than an RE. Any further comments from the board at this time? Mr. Powers.
One, I guess, a question. Last meeting, or maybe the meeting before that, a point was made that the majority, if not all of the subdivisions that have been approved in the last 3-4 years have either been multifamily units, townhomes, starter homes, and that's good to allow people to have houses to start out in, but generally speaking, the shelf life maybe of subdivisions like that, after a couple, 3 owners rotate through it, it starts going downhill, and we don't have that many subdivisions or areas where for people to move to. Is that a consideration in something like this, that we're just adding more small starter homes? You mentioned Riverwood, which is a prime example, and I don't know what's planned for Ashcroft, but if Riverwood spreads out, or housing like Riverwood spreads out all over that part of the county, we're not accomplishing anything that we have not been for 3 or 4 years. And I don't know if anybody else thought about that or thinks about that, but it was mentioned at a meeting, and I just thought I'd ask about it.
Yeah, I do feel like that's something that has come up a few times here as we've looked at these issues, I guess, and help correct me if I'm wrong, fellow board members, but I guess the way I was thinking about it today was we're just looking at the rezoning piece, and then it's more of like it's a recommendation to town council. So then when the site plan and everything came through, there would be more input maybe into that sort of issue, where it's kind of like, well, what's actually going in there versus what this is, to me, just the rezoning, but correct me if I'm wrong on that. Let's see, any other comments from the board?
I just want to make one, I agree with you that, but however, I think sometimes we miss to look at the future of Clayton and what kind of town we want it to be. The power is in the rezoning, because once you rezone the property to a higher density, it's moot. So if we want to have a distinguishable delineation of homes and economic levels in our town, we have to look at it from the zoning, and that's why we have the long-term plan for zoning. I'm quite sure the town spent considerable amount of time and money developing this long-term vision plan. And to me, the key is, and I think we miss it sometimes, by the time it comes back for the site plan, the vision is lost. The power and the vision and making sure that we have a town that's going to be enjoyable for citizens of all economic levels, I think is important now. And I think that was part of the vision with having some lower density lots, getting, larger lots, larger homes mixed in with higher density homes, the traditional mixed use that you see across the state, having that blend. And so I just wanted to remind the Planning Commission, everybody reminds us when they come up, remember, but they're self-serving, the applicants, that we have to look at it from the long-term vision plan of what's best for Clayton in the long term. And I'm just leave it at that. That should be our decision.
That's an excellent point, in my opinion. I see what you're saying. And, this has come up a few times lately, and not just in this board, but, throughout the town. We've had people come in and kind of weigh in on both sides of the issue. So it's definitely a valid debate, alive and well out there. Are there any other comments from the board? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion, and this would be either to recommend or not recommend approval of the proposed rezoning request to the town council.
Madam Chairman, I'll put forward a motion to recommend approval to the town council.
Thank you, Board Member Price. A motion to recommend approval. Is there a second? A second by Board Member Bizzle. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no.
No.
We have a no from Chair or Board Member Moore. Motion carries. Thank you all for attending, and I will introduce the next item on the agenda after we've had a time to gather the next audience.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is 4B, Public Hearing 2020-113-PDD, Ashcroft 2 Planned Development Rezoning, and we'll now hear from staff.
Good evening, Board. Haley Hogue, Senior Planner. This request is for Ashcroft 2 Planned Development Rezoning. The applicant is requesting to rezone the subject parcels from residential estate and planned development residential to planned development mixed use. In total, the properties are about 241 acres in size, and they are located off of O'Neill Street, just south of the Neuse River and north of the existing Ashcroft subdivision. And currently, the lots included in this proposal they consist of single-family, vacant, and wooded lots. This is the current zoning map compared to the proposed zoning map. As you can see on the proposed zoning map, these parcels would be transitioning to that planned development mixed-use designation. To the south of these parcels is the existing Ashcroft subdivision, which is zoned planned development residential. And then to the west across O'Neill Street is planned development residential as well, and that is the future Steeplechase property. And there's also, if you see that pink parcel shown on the map, that is a neighborhood business zoning category. This is the associated master plan that is running concurrently with the rezoning request. They have submitted a preliminary plat that is acting as a master plan and will go to town council for final decision. We included this in the application for informational purposes only, as this is only the rezoning tonight that is being heard. So planning board will just make a recommendation on the rezoning. And this plan has not yet been TRC certified, so it is still subject to change prior to council hearing. In the comprehensive plan, these parcels are designated as low-density residential, which typically sees up to 3 units per acre. The associated master plan is proposing just over 3 units an acre, so we do find this to be consistent with the intent of that plan. And we are comfortable with the commercial component, since there is neighborhood mixed-use designation right across the street in that hatched area. And also, it's worth noting that any uses in that commercial component would be outlined in that master plan and would be subject to review and approval by council in that master plan. And then we also found it to be consistent with goal LU1 of the comp plan to preserve Clayton's small town character while allowing for growth and development in appropriate areas. And it is also consistent with the surrounding land uses, which are residential. And again, planning board tonight will just be making a recommendation on the rezoning, and the master plan preliminary plat will proceed to town council for final review. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And the applicant has the presentation as well.
Thank you. Any questions for staff at this time?
Hey there, I have one question. At what point, when we have a change in zoning and everything, which will influence, will put a heavier traffic impact, at what point and who asks for a traffic impact study?
So the traffic impact analysis has been submitted with the master plan and is under review right now by staff and DOT.
Thank you.
And then that would be reviewed during the master plan phase of the council hearing.
Thank you.
I think we had another question. Board Member Bizzle.
Actually, Bucky stole my thunder. One other question. As far as I saw some architectural standards on the master plan, are any of those architectural standards being offered to the public, to the club?
Yes, so the master plan will outline the dimensional standards, architectural standards, permitted uses, and so on. And the applicant might be able to chime in on some of that information tonight. I'm not sure if they have that in their presentation for this.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff at this time? Okay, thank you. If you wouldn't mind sanitizing the stand, and then we will hear from the applicant.
Good evening. My name is Cindy Schwarzkopf with Stewart, 223 Southwest Street in Raleigh. I'm here this evening representing Ashcroft Partners LLC for the Ashcroft Section 2 rezoning. Just wanted to first start by thanking staff for all of the great collaboration that we've had over the past couple of months as we've been working through this with planning, and then Joshua and Rich working through, helping us work through some different things. It's really been a great collaboration, and I appreciate all the time that staff has spent with us. Again, tonight we're talking about a mixed-use rezoning application. As Haley noted, the master plan is currently being reviewed concurrently, and will be working towards council within the next month or so. Just quickly wanted to, orient you to the site. Haley already did a great job of letting you know where it is, but this is a request to rezone 241.21 acres of land from RE to a planned development mixed-use category. We are looking to do a large-scale infill development, truthfully. As the last case talked about a donut hole, this really is the same type thing. This is an appropriate location for a mixed-use rezoning. The property across the street, across O'Neill Street, was recently put forth for a rezoning as well, and it has a higher density than this. Ashcroft Section 1 is immediately to the south of this. The northern connector will be going through the middle of it. So in thinking of infrastructure and appropriate place for development, this really is it. Again, just to orient you, showing you the location of the project. It's a little bit hard to see from my location here, but I hope you can see this. The site is currently RE with a small portion PDR. In the gray area to just kind of the southeast, according to this map, is the proposed location of the town's wastewater treatment plant, and we've been working with town staff over the past couple of weeks to help provide access to that proposed facility. There's a small portion of property that's also, it's vacant at this point, but it's B2, and that's also going to complement this if it's ever developed for a neighborhood commercial use. Again, just kind of showing the location of what the bounds would be of this property if it is rezoned to the mixed use. Wanted to just quickly touch on, and Haley talked about this as well, but the project is consistent with the comp plan. The assemblage is designated as low density residential on the future land use map, and the overall density for this project for the rezoning and for the master plan is right at 3.01 units. So it's right in line with the town requirements. Just for comparison purposes, the Steeplechase project across O'Neill is at about 7 units per acre, just to kind of give you an idea on density. We appreciate the fact that staff noted in the report that staff's comfortable with the PDMU designation, and it allows for a potential neighborhood center that we would really like to see serve not only the Ashcroft community, but Clayton as a whole. Haley mentioned in her presentation that the master plan is being put forth right now, and it's going through a concurrent review. The plan that you have in your packet is different than what I'm showing you on the screen right now, and that's because this is an evolution. We're going through comment response with staff and working through TRC, but the main thing is to let you know that this is different because this is in direct response to staff request, town request, to provide access to the wastewater treatment plant. So if you can see on the screen, the line in red is what we've worked out with town and what town has asked us to provide access to the wastewater treatment plant. So we actually took our layout and revised it to be able to accommodate this request from staff. And it works out really well, provides access from O'Neill Street through the development into the wastewater treatment plant and shows an entrance there. So we're happy to be able to work with staff and town on that. Now, just to give you a quick idea of, doing a mixed-use plan, we're talking about the different components. Right now, we're showing up to 105,000 square feet of commercial, varied types of residential units. We want to really have this be a life cycle type community, so a place where people can live, work, and play. So, of course, this is on the master plan, and it's all in progress, but at this point, we're showing, a variety of different types of lots for different types of income levels, families, things like that, starting at 4,200, 10,000 square foot lots, all the way up to estate lots. Because we really do think it's important to be able to cater to people throughout their entire life cycle. Whether you're going to be moving into an apartment as you're right out of your college, buying your first house, having a family, moving into different sizes, this one community would allow you to live and grow within it. So we're very excited to be able to bring this forward to you. In addition to the singles, there's townhomes, as I mentioned, multifamily units, and then also programmed to have an amenity center with a lot of great connections to greenways and recreational opportunities. And just quickly going over the rezoning approval criteria that you will be considering this evening. It does meet the comp plan goals. You know, it looks to preserve Clayton's small town character, but at the same time allowing for growth and development in the appropriate area. And that's really what's key to this one. Encouraging a range of housing sizes and housing lots that meet various income levels, family sizes, and ages. Again, looking for that life cycle of the project. The density is consistent with the intent of the comp plan, and it also complies with the Phase 2 watershed rule. So we've been very careful in looking at this overall project from an environmental standpoint as well. And then looking at the suitability of the project for uses permitted by the current and proposed district, this area is located in a portion of Clayton that's transitioning. It's transitioning from large lot rural and agricultural to more of a residential feel, and is very well suited for this mixed-use designation. And just kind of going through a few of the other ones just to quickly, so I can open this up for any questions. But I really do want to note that, and I heard from the last case, you know, the question about range of housing sizes and lot sizes, and this project does meet comp plan goal H1 to encourage a range of housing types and lot sizes that meet the needs of various income levels, family sizes, and ages. The project also does work within the adequate public facilities and schools. The project's going to be developed over 10 different phases, and it's going to be in response to the demand for residential and commercial uses. The commercial uses right now, living in this COVID or post-COVID timeframe, it's very difficult to be able to identify exactly what those are going to be, but we know that this wants to be a commercial, this wants to be a neighborhood spot. It wants to be a place where not only the residents of Ashcroft, but Steeplechase and others will have a place to go and a place to shop, and hopefully be able to even have offices and things as well at some point in time. The development's going to be timed to make sure that there is capacity available in the town's new wastewater treatment plant, so that's very key. We have requested allocation, and we are understanding the timing for that plant to go online. We'll make sure that we're in line with that. The TIA has been completed and is going through the process of review. And one thing that's also key about this is that this development is also dedicating the right-of-way to accommodate the town being able to construct the Northern Connector, which is a key piece of infrastructure for the town. And then the last items for the rezoning criteria, you know, I won't really detail all of them in length, but because I believe we've demonstrated that the proposal does meet the requirements of the comp plan and does not result in any adverse impacts to the adjoining neighbors. So with that, you know, I'm happy to just kind of wrap it up, and I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions for the applicant? Mr. Price?
It's more a site plan issue, but how much buffer is there going to be between the residential part of this and the sewage treatment plant?
Well, that is absolutely a site plan and subdivision issue, and we will show compliance with the UDC at that time.
Any other questions for staff? I'm sorry, for the applicant.
This has nothing to do with the rezoning, but on your map, you had the access road.
This one?
Yeah, the red line. Is that road also, is that going to be a separate access road just for the wastewater treatment plant?
No, sir.
Is that going to be a corridor into your subdivision also?
Yes, sir. But we're constructing it early in the project so that it can facilitate access to the wastewater treatment plant.
No, I was just saying the residents who buy on that side, knowing they're all going to be on a corridor with sludge coming out. on a regular basis.
Yes, sir.
Cindy, just a quick question. And I think I know the answer to this, obviously. It's hard to separate the PUD from the master plan. So pardon if I ask something to do with the master plan, but, you know, the reservation of the right of way for the north, this is a significant portion of that, which is awesome. I assume with that being constructed by DOT hopefully one day or whoever, that the consideration has been given that road may not be there for years.
Correct.
And that this project could function without.
Correct. We've been very careful, talk to the mic here.
Thank you.
We've been very careful with our design and working with town staff, looking at access points to make sure that the site can be adequately served without having to have the northern connector in place immediately.
Excellent, thank you. Any other questions for our applicant? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
If you wouldn't mind, yep, if you could just wipe things down. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Are there any public comments on this matter? Hearing none, I will turn it over to the board for their consideration. Comments from the board? Mr. Price?
Since nobody else is stepping up, this certainly meets the development that is compatible with the development that's already gone in Ashcroft, plus adding a commercial track. And so the requested mixed use is certainly in line with what it needs to be.
Thank you for your comment. I would agree with that as well. Any other comments from the board at this time? Mr. Bizzle?
Just a comment. You know, I think I'm really a proponent of planning large versus small and in pieces, but to plan you know, a 200-acre parcel like this that is truly the epitome of a mixed-use development. This could be a real asset, you know, and this zoning is necessary to make this happen. As the applicant stated, you know, it offers something for everyone. Starter homes, the apartments, the estates, the commercial, and it's, you know, I go back to this a significant piece of the North Connector right away, which will benefit many people in the community. So I'm very pleased with what we're seeing.
Thank you. I was just going to add my one comment I wanted to say as well. That I do like that about the mixed use, that there is more flexibility there. You can kind of come up with creative problem solving to work with the site and, you know, phase it in, build around what's in demand at that time. And I like that part of it as well myself. Any other comments from the board?
And I think what you just said, Madam Chair, is a good point, that the PUD zoning gives the applicant, the developers, the opportunity to do things that you may not be able to do under the straight EDO. So I think that's a good thing.
Anyone else? Okay. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion, and this would be to either recommend or not recommend approval of the proposed rezoning request to town council.
I move that we recommend approval of the rezoning request.
Awesome. A motion to approve by Board Member Moore. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Board Member Powers. Let's see, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. All those opposed say no. Motion carries. Can we blame it on my steamy glasses? I will introduce the next item on the agenda after staff has had a chance to get our audience. Okay, the next item on our agenda tonight is 5A, New Business 2020-81-SP, Government Road Handy Mart Major Site Plan, and we'll now hear from staff.
Good evening, Sharon Sharp, Town Planner 1 here in the town of Clayton. And I have before you the ability to present the Government Road Handy Mart, which is located about 2900 Highway 42 West in the ETJ portion of Clayton. You may recall this property was rezoned earlier in the spring from RE to B3. It is a total of a little over 5 acres, and tonight the major site plan request is for development of a convenience store with gas and food sales. As you can see from the aerial map, the current state of the property does have some existing single-family structures at this time. The site plan application you have before you has been through the TRC certification and received approval for the construction of the principal building, which is about 5150 square feet, and the fuel canopies here to the north of the property as well as to the west, which is the diesel canopy. The site has been through an entire review of the landscaping, architectural elevations, which I will go over at this time. As you can see, there is parking to the north and to the west of the site as well as to the east of the site as it lays out. This is in the thoroughfare overlay, and so therefore you have the requirements for additional landscaping along the north portion of the property as it abuts Highway 42 West here. As you can see from the architectural elevations for the front and the side that they all match, this will be a construction of brick and masonry building with some red metal banding. It does meet the Town of Clayton design guidelines. Upon completion of construction, the max height of the building will be about 21 feet. Here are the elevations for the architecturals for the canopies. And this is an image along Highway 42 and Government Road. It is consistent with the 2040 comp plan, which designates this as a community center. There is to the north of this site property that is also Zone B3. And the applicant has already addressed all the criteria for TRC certification, as I stated before. Staff does recommend approval of this major site plan. And if you have any questions for me, I'm available, as well as the applicant and the property owners.
Thank you so much. Any questions for staff? If you don't mind, Ms. Sharp, wiping down the podium, and then we can call upon the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you.
And at this time, we can hear from the applicant.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you, everyone, for your time, and thank you to Sharon and the rest of the staff who have been helpful in explaining the process and the criteria we need to meet. So I would just like to reiterate, I think she did a great job of giving a good overview of what we're doing on this site. It is a convenience store building, also gas sales and diesel fuel sales. There are a lot of other businesses surrounding it close by on Highway 42, and we expect continued business growth in that area. So we feel that this is, really makes sense to put it in that location. But more importantly, it's consistent with the comprehensive plan, and we've complied with the Unified Development Code. So we have provided a little more than the minimum required parking, so we've got more than adequate parking, so you won't have overflow on surrounding properties. And we've also provided a little more handicap parking than is required, as well as the thoroughfare landscaping. There's a lot of that. And on the southern border of our property, we've located our stormwater management device in between the developed portion of the site and the required landscape buffer, and that provides a little extra buffering between the paved area and the adjacent property. So I don't know if there are any questions.
Thank you so much. Any questions for the applicant? Mr. Bizzle.
So I'm assuming the right turn lane has been discussed with NCDOT and they're okay with that?
Yes, I appreciate you pointing that out. So NCDOT is requiring that we do some off-site improvements. So on Highway 42, we will have right-in, right-out access, driveway access there. And we're adding a right turn lane off of Highway 42 into our development so that to prevent traffic conflicts with people slowing down on Highway 42. And then on Government Road, we have a full access driveway, and we're adding a left turn lane. We're widening the road to add a center left turn lane for cars making a left turn into our site.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, if you wouldn't mind just, there's a towel there, yep, okay, wiping it off. Thank you so much. Are there any public comments on this matter? If not, I will turn it over to the board for their consideration. Any comments from the board? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion to approve the site plan as presented, but there's no conditions.
Correct. Thank you. Motion to approve made by Board Member Coates. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Lipscomb. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Last item on our agenda is informal discussion and public comment. Is there anyone who would like to speak at this time?
Good evening, Sharon Sharp again. As I stated, I'm a planner here on staff. Unfortunately, due to the changes in the economy, my family and I will be relocating, and I will no longer be a part of the Town of Clayton team as of later in October. It's been a pleasure to work with everyone. I'm disappointed that I won't get to come to know you on a little bit of an intimate level as we move forward. So I am, in fact, going to be resigning in the middle of October. The team of planners that I've worked with here, as well as Samantha, have been awesome. And I would ask that you make sure that they get their support, because they're very busy in getting a replacement for me as soon as possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you for letting us know. We hate to lose you. I know for me personally, I've heard really good things about you, so I wish you the best, and thank you for the time you put in, and you did a great job.
Good evening, Samantha Woolen-Weber, Planning Director. We are very sad to be losing Sharon, but we completely understand her position that she is in. And I do want to mention that at our October Planning Board meeting, we're going to have a work session with Stuart, our consultant, on the 160D changes. So we don't have many cases right now, so plan for at least an hour or two, probably let's say 2 hours work session. So what we're going to do, be reviewing ordinances and some things that we've been working on with the consultant. These are changes that are mandated by law. The 160D is legislation through North Carolina. And now that we have gone through several rounds of review internally, we are having town council work sessions and work session with you all. This is not a public hearing. This is nothing we will be voting on that night, but it's simply something we want your input on. It's very, very important. So just prepare for that, and if everyone can please attend in October. That's all I have.
Thank you. Good information. Any other comments at this time? Okay, hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion.
Motion by Board Member Powers. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Board Member Price. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.